Hello, and welcome to Section 6 of Unit 6 of International Procurement. Today, we'll be looking at exchange rate fluctuations and natural disasters. At the end of this section, you should be able to explain the term exchange rate fluctuations and explain the types of natural disasters. So, exchange rate is the price of one country's currency expressed in another country's currency. So, basically, how much is Ghana cedis in the US dollar, or how much is Ghana cedis worth in the US? So, since in the US they spend the US dollar, if you ask me how much is Ghana cedis worth in the US, then we are saying that we are going to compare the price of Ghana cedis, one Ghana cedi in the US, and how that one will be expressed. So, in other words, is the rate at which one currency can be exchanged for the other. So, it is a national and international political, social, and economic indicator for, I mean, businesses and then international trade and what have you. In developed countries, it reacts quickly to events like war, terrorism, and also to changes in political situations, as well as, the main economic indicators like unemployment and interest rates. So, as we may have some main economic indicators like unemployment, economic um, interest rates and what have you, there's also some form of things that international or exchange rate fluctuations respond to. Sorry. So for example, in the euros, the Cristiano Ronaldo took Coca-Cola aside and then decided to take water by telling us, or by telling the whole world, that water is better than taking Coke. And then Cook lost some huge sums of money, in the stock exchange market. So we are saying that there are a lot of things that can affect the economic indicators. I mean, but for this study, when we talk about the exchange rate fluctuations, we are seeing for natural disasters, for political issues, terrorism, wars, all of these things can sometimes affect the exchange fluctuations of countries. So exchange rate fluctuations impact on growth through trade flows. The effect of exchange rate fluctuations on trade flows are analyzed in terms of risk and uncertainties. So the variability of exchange rates is a source of exchange is the source of exchange rate risk and has certain implications on the volume of international trade, consequently on the balance of payments. So we are seeing the effect of exchange rate fluctuations on trade flows are analyzed in terms of risk and uncertainties, and that is true. It is the risk and uncertainties that hit, I mean, the trade flows, and these trade flows in turn affecting the exchange rates of countries. So we look at natural disaster. So according to the Center for Research and Epidemiology of Disaster, like CRED, a disaster is defined as a situation or event which prevents the continuity of regular operations in a region, requires outside assistance, and cause great destruction, damage, and suffering. So whether facing a hurricane, tsunami, a blizzard, any kind of natural disaster will inevitably disrupt global supply chains with uh, with postponed or paused deliveries, closed ports, cancelled cargo flights, and unbalanced supply and demand. A perfect example not long ago is the COVID that hit the entire world, and everybody was, every supply chain, every global supply chain was, came to a standstill. People were even, I mean, rushing for tissues and other things. And at some point, we were not getting um, some of these goods of essentials. So basically, that is what natural disaster is about. So the impact of a larger disaster on international trade can be transmitted either directly or indirectly. So for direct impacts, those are the ones that occur, and then those are the ones that affect human lives or causes injuries and affect companies, human resource and all that. So mostly they are the distractions to the physical capital and equipment of export sector. So damage to public infrastructure such as road, bridges, railway, telecommunication system can cause disruption to the export supply chain. So geological disaster include the avalanche, landslide, volcanic eruptions, sinkholes, and earthquakes. So those ones are the geological disaster that we find ourselves in, or that we may see. So these are some types of natural disasters we are looking at. Then we have the hydrological ones. So the main hydrological disasters are the floods, the limnic eruptions, and the tsunamis. So those are the ones that comes in with water. And then we have the meteorological disaster, and which includes the cyclone storms, the hailstorms, the ice storms, heat waves, cold waves, thunderstorms, droughts, and tornadoes. All of these ones are the ones that come from the skies. So the hydro ones come from water, geological ones come from the geographic or the land, and then the meteorological ones come from um, the skies. Then wildfires. So wildfires are natural disasters which occur naturally due to drought and lightning, but are also often caused by humans. So sometimes humans cause wildfires. For example, as we saw in Australia some time ago. I don't think that one was caused by human, but the forest in Australia caught fire, and I mean it got burnt, and then it affected a lot of um, um, wildlife. And then we come to space disaster. I mean, sometimes we may not hear of these ones, but space disaster include impact events of meteors or asteroids and solar flares. Impact events, that means or impact events mean that the earth will be eventually hit by a meteor or an asteroid. Solar flares refers to an event when the sun releases large amounts of solar radiations which can destroy our electrical equipment on Earth if the radiation is strong enough. So I don't think we have experienced some of these things or some of these disasters, or maybe there were days in the history of the Earth that we experienced some of these ones. But solar flares, I haven't heard the world experiencing that before. But so long as it has a name, we are sure to say it has ever happened before. Then we come to global warming. It leads to an increasing in temperature of oceans, which in turn leads to a more and stronger hurricanes and tropical storms, since hurricanes get their energy from the sea water. Moreover, the probability of drought increases since the planet's average temperature increases. So global warming is also another um, um, cause of natural disaster. I mean, even in our normal Ghanaian setting, because of the depletion of ozone layer, when you are walking, if you are not fortunate to have a car and you are walking from your home to your workplace or wherever, the market or wherever you may find yourself, we see the scorching sun these days we face. So all of these ones are some causes of natural disasters. Look at the natural activities in earth crusts. So natural disasters are also caused by the natural activities in in the crust of the earth. So natural processes can cause tension outside the um, earth's crust, which are sometimes released through earthquakes. Then we look at the tectonic movement. Since the Earth is not made up of one single surface, but instead of many plates sliding on our planet's underlying mantle, a shift or collision of these plates can have severe adverse effects. So that is what we term as the tectonic movement. So this can lead to earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and tsunamis. So it's like a slide of the planet surface, and that could lead to earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and tsunamis. Then we also look at the moon activity. The moon activity is known to have a strong influence on the natural process on Earth. According to the latest studies, researchers found that the moon has the potential to cause huge earthquakes, which may cause huge amounts of destructions on and deaths on Earth. I mean, so let's just pray and hope some of these natural causes or natural disasters never happen to our beautiful world. Then we come to mining. Mining is a controversial, it's a controversial weather mining activity that can cause natural disaster. So some scientists blame mining for landslide and soil and mountain erosions. Other others arguments Others augment that landslides occur naturally due to heavy rainfalls and flash floods. Mining can thus potentially contribute to the emergence of natural disaster, although it is not the main driver. It is mostly and visibly seen in Ghana how the mining industry or mining in itself affects our environment. So mining in itself can cause natural disaster, as some research have proven that mining activities causes landslide and soil and mountain erosions. Yes. So we look at some causes of natural disaster. So some of the causes of the natural disaster is the soil erosion, the air pressure, the ocean currents, and then pollution. If you pollute the environment enough, it can cause soil erosion, or when you pollute the environment, it can cause the the environment. The environment to go bad, or basically can cause the environment to degrade. Yes, and then for ocean currents are basically the the currents that move from the ocean, and these ones are, when they are too heavy, they then cause hurricanes and these tsunamis and or what have you. Then air pressure, soil erosion, and deforestation. Deforestation, we already know that it causes global warming and all of that. Then effects of natural disaster. So there are some effects of natural disaster. You have the environmental issues, you have the humanitarian crisis, hunger, and all of these things are some effects. Damage to infrastructure. So if you have a hurricane hitting, I mean, um, cities, there's loss of infrastructure loss and all that. Public health issues and diseases. I mean, COVID came as a natural disaster, and there was an issue with public health and diseases. Even people who took the vaccines, I'm not against taking vaccines, but even some people took vaccines and they were reacting very negatively to it. So all of these effects of natural disaster um affect the human and then the social fabric of life. Then food scarcity, water scarcity, as well as displaced population. If you are due to flood, you move from your home country to a different country or neighboring country, you may displace population. Again, flood, tsunamis, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, these things, or all these natural disasters can affect food security and water security for people. Then we look at some solutions to natural disaster. So we are seeing that emergency measures, um, investments in risk reduction, information sharing on newest research findings. If you find that there are new things that are coming and there's the need for organizations or firms or stakeholders to stay on guard, then you should always share these informations. Again, reforestation, that's build planting new, or afforestation, planting new trees, or making the environment a better place to be. Stable buildings. Buildings should be very stable enough that it can withstand against air tremors and earthquakes and what have you. Education, there's the need to educate people on the need or the solutions to natural disaster problems. And then technology. You could always include technology or innovative ways of making the world a better place to um, fight against these natural disasters when they so happen. Again, governance. When there are good governance in place, we can, as we mentioned earlier, some of these natural disasters happens as a result of our human activities. So if we have good governance and then our human activities are in place, there's the need for a solution to these natural disaster or natural occurrences. So in this section, we have learned about the exchange rate fluctuations and explain some types of natural disasters. Thank you and see you some other time.